What is a second brain, and why does Tiago Forte want me to have one? I want to explore what Tiago means by building a second brain and my own reflections on the book. His approach has had a profound effect on my own creative journey as an independent writer, creator, and somebody that ended up writing a book. I can actually credit discovering his ideas in the summer of 2018 with my own production of my book, The Path is Path. I wanted to go through some reflections from the book and just talk a little bit more about how I've integrated second brain approaches in my life. So there's an interesting parallel between Tiago and I. We both face chronic illnesses.
And I have this long-standing pain and tension in my neck that has been actually the driving force in this decade-long journey. I've described, I wish I could say no, I'm so motivated and ambitious that I just set out on this path. No. It was like being woken up every day, feeling like there's a vice around my neck.
And this is an interesting thing that emerges in a lot of people that take unconventional paths. As Tiago writes in the book, it forced him to compensate for his weaknesses. He had challenges with his memory, so he had to create systems to organize his ideas outside of his actual brain. He needed to create a second brain because his first brain wasn't up to the task. Interesting for me, I never really faced this, and I didn't notice that I was actually doing it at work, and it took me a while to actually apply it into my own life as an independent creator. Early in my career, I was working in consulting at McKinsey and Company, and I was responsible for organizing the research and information in one of our areas around lean manufacturing. One thing I quickly realized was that a lot of the client teams I was working with all were asking the same questions over and over again. I didn't want to keep working on these. I wanted to work on deeper projects. I wanted to go more in depth with some of the client teams I was working with. So I created a wiki page internally. I synthesized a lot of the information. I created pre-packaged decks and memos that I could send to the teams. And they loved this. I got recognition for this internally. I helped other people build these, and I started getting noticed by some of the senior leaders. I got to work with senior partners helping to develop the practice strategy and work on longer, more in-depth projects. It was amazing. And this is an approach I took throughout my career working in full-time consulting jobs. Yet when I became an independent creator, working on my own, I was writing, I didn't use any of these approaches. So summer of 2018, a friend introduced me to Tiago's course, Building a Second Brain. I'll have to admit, I didn't actually take the course, but I read all of his articles on his site, and I quickly realized, oh wait, if I want to produce interesting idea, I can't just rely on my brain. We forget most of what we read and consume, and if we don't take notes of what inspires us and what moves us, how can we use those as building blocks for what we want to create? There's a great quote in the book by Sebastian Junger. I think it's on page 38. He's writing about writer's block. Sebastian says, "It's not that I'm blocked, it's that I don't have enough research to write with power and knowledge about the topic. It always means not that I can't find the right words, but rather I don't have the ammunition." So many people think that creative work just sort of happens. People sit there with a blank page and you're inspired and you create. What Tiago made me realize, and this was so obvious because I had the experience doing this in my full-time job, is that I needed the ammunition, I needed the building block for creating things of my own. Now, a lot of the productivity approaches and second brain approaches out there advocate for taking notes on everything. That's never really worked for me. I don't organize most of my notes. What I do instead is embrace what I call a curiosity first second brain approach. My approach is basically just to highlight anything that inspires me and then just dump it into apps like Roam, Readwise, and just let it sit there. It's not until I actually create that I revisit that, and then I might structure the note. Tiago actually talks about this in the book when he writes about progressive summarization, which is a technique for highlighting, bolding, and structuring some of the raw notes that you have or observations you might have collected in an app like Roam, Evernote, Notion, and so on. He says that many people think the goal is to have perfect notes, have all these structured ideas and thought. But I've found, and if you read deeply into what Tiago's saying, he's really saying the same thing I am, which is that consuming information and noticing what inspires you, what moves you, what connects to ideas you've been thinking about is what it's really all about. You don't want to create second brain systems that are an end in itself. They should be a means to an end. I actually call my system my creative engine. It starts with consuming information and taking notes, but really the superpower is in the creation. It's in the creation, the steady, consistent creation. For example, I write my newsletter every week, that I keep coming back to ideas. And it's in the writing and creating where I go back to those ideas and I use the search function to see what I've collected over the year. That I start to see, oh, there's these patterns. This keeps emerging in something I'm paying attention to. Maybe I should go deeper on this, might lead me down future rabbit holes. And also just sharing it, shares it with other people, that want to connect with me. They reach out, I have conversations that inspires me further. And it really just keeps that cycle going. And this is what energizes me in my path of creating. And it's also something that enabled me to easily write a book. Now, it wasn't super easy. It took me 13 months, but I had the building blocks. In the essays I wrote over the years, I knew the ideas that resonated with people I was talking to from the process of sharing them. And I had this deep faith inside of me that said, okay, I see the finish line. I don't know how to get there. I've never written a book, but I have the pieces. I have the structure. I know the feeling that I'm headed in the right place and I can do this. So I just want to thank Tiago. Highly recommend the book. I think it's a useful companion for anyone in a job, and especially independent creators who want to create ideas that connect them with other people, inspire others, and change their life.